Hello, welcome to A Course in Miracles. I'm Tomas Garza, and thank you for joining me here. We're going to talk about oneness today. And as often happens when we talk about a workbook idea here in A Course in Miracles, I think when I turn on the microphone and the camera and hit the record button, that I'm going to be really brief, and that somehow I'll manage to deliver a very succinct message. And then naturally we end up elaborating on it, which is really kind of funny, isn't it? I mean, I hope that you're finding a lot of humor on the spiritual path, because we're kind of comical beings, aren't we? The way we say one thing and do another, or we say we mean something when we mean something else, and we add layers and layers of complication, gradations, percentages, decimals. We quantify what's super simple. We complicate life. So recognizing that, which inevitably happens on the path, there's got to be some sense of humor there, right? And I hope that, I really do. I hope that you're finding that. The idea for today that I think I'll be able to say something very brief about is lesson 262 in the workbook for students, which is, let me perceive no differences today. Let me perceive no differences today. And we're talking about oneness. And the prayer here, the written prayer that accompanies this idea, really puts it perfectly. It puts it absolutely perfectly. Why should we see, and it uses the word 1,000 names, right? Why should we have 1,000 names for what's one? And it's more than 1,000, isn't it? It's 8 billion or more than that. It's a classic example of how, when we identify with the ego, we classify and subdivide and separate. So from the one separation come billions and billions, more than that even, countless other minute separations, which are all a symbolic reenactment of the separation, which, as we know from studying A Course in Miracles, and we know in our gut, never occurred. We're not broken. We're not broken. We are the Son of God. We are as God created us, the extension of himself, which of course means that we're not a body. The body, how could the body be God? It's not even a thing. Again, A Course in Miracles is a very different kind of spiritual document, isn't it? Dr. Ken Wapnick, who is widely considered in common parlance the OG of Course in Miracles teachers, was really the first and the best known exponent of the Course. Anyway, Ken Wapnick called A Course in Miracles the most important and significant spiritual document of our time. As a Course student and teacher, I've got to agree with him, but it really cuts right to the chase. It doesn't fuck around. And therefore, it's not for everybody. Yeah, right? It's not for everybody, because there's a lot of you can call it any way that you want to call it, by any name that you want to call it, but there's a lot of spirituality light out there. There's a lot of dancing around. Not to impugn anyone that teaches or practices the dancing around. It's just a statement of fact here in the world, isn't it? There's a lot of dancing around. There's a lot of what my friend and wonderful spiritual teacher, G.P. Walsh, calls cappuccino spirituality. It's like going to Starbucks. Yeah, I'll take a double mochaccino latte chino with soy and 3 pumps, please. And then there's always someone, man or woman, who just walks up and orders a drip coffee. And the barista goes, huh? Right? That's the kind of world that we live in. Lots of complications. So there are lots of pretty packages out there. Let me tell you something. I know, because you're watching this, that you know this. So let this serve as a reinforcement. Spirituality is not a pretty package, is it? It's not about the shiny wrapper. It's not about the sexy, shiny wrapper. It's not about fucking next level this or next level that, as I've seen some people advertise their programs. It's not about getting a Mercedes-Benz, new and black, of course, with all leather seats, that's really fast and really impressive looking on Instagram. It's not about that. You may acquire such things along the way, and if you do, great. So be it. Because we all need shelter in the world. We all need money. We need to put food on the table. We need to pay the light bill, or they're going to turn it off. And then how do we recharge our phones? I mean, really, there are some practical considerations here in the world, but ultimately, because you're interested in universal spirituality, because you're interested in A Course in Miracles, this tells me, in no uncertain terms, that you're ready for more than cappuccino spirituality. You're ready for more than just a shining, sexy package. There's nothing sexy about this work, really, even though it leads to the peace of God, which is beyond words. It's beyond conception. It is joy. It is love. You may have experienced some of this along the way, but A Course in Miracles just kind of lays it out. Isn't that refreshing? You're not a body. What's your name? Who are you? Think you know. I invite you to take a look at the wonderful, wonderful italicized prayer that accompanies lesson 262. And I invite you to read the very short commentary that follows it. It lays it all out there. The Course in Miracles lays it all out there. It does not fuck around. It doesn't waste your time. And it doesn't, if you choose to follow it, it doesn't keep you trapped in the designs of the ego. There's nothing spiritual about the things we pursue in the world. Anything that we pursue: money, sex, fame, power, black Mercedes, hot, sexy lover, a beautiful ribeye steak, medium rare. And if you're a vegetarian, a beautiful vegetarian meal with no hint of ribeye steak anywhere, let alone mid-rare, right? All the things that we pursue in the world don't lead us to the peace of God. Why? The world is an illusion. Are you ready to really, truly accept and allow that truth? The same truth as you're not a body. We spent earlier going through this workbook 20 lessons contemplating at length the idea, I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. And I hope that having gone through those exercises, that statement is still fresh and topmost in your mind. Most people in the world are not ready or even willing to accept that they're not a body. They think that this is what they are. The ego, of course, would love for us to believe just that and keep us trapped in cyclic existence, to put it in the Buddhist term, samsara, right? The round of suffering, world without end, right? Yet, deep down, each of us knows that there's more to it than that, that we're not, in fact, what we appear to be. Things aren't as they appear to be. So we perceive difference all around us. What if we were to change our minds? Really, what if you were to decide right now, I am changing my mind. Let me perceive no difference today. Let me perceive my brother as myself. Let me perceive my neighbor as myself. Let me love my neighbor as myself. Anyone raised in a Christian church? This is what we're talking about. Let me perceive no differences today. There aren't any. And A Course in Miracles just spits it out, which you may find is a beautiful thing. It may seem abrupt. And if it seems abrupt to you, if some of these ideas seem like they make sense on some level, but they're kind of hard to swallow, that's a good experience here on the path. What's going on is you're experiencing the resistance of the ego to its own vanishing. You're experiencing its projected reaction to its own irrelevance. It's nothing. There is no separation of any kind. So what we do, practicing here in the world where there appear to be 8 billion of us, and we appear to be thinking different thoughts, we appear to be eating different foods, and we appear to be driving different cars, we appear to be living in different houses, we appear to be living in these bizarrely drawn, concocted things called different countries, which is a bunch of dudes hundreds of years ago that got together. They might have been drunk and just drawing lines on a world map, said, okay, this is the United States, this is Canada. What the hell does that actually even mean when you think about it? I invite you to come back as many times as you can and must to the summary of A Course in Miracles. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. All right? Nothing unreal exists. We have free will, which can never be taken from us, ever. Choosing to ignore spirituality is a choice. It's a choice. People are fond of playing the victim card in the world, aren't they? They're fond of saying, I have no choice. Well, of course you do. Of course you do. We all have a choice. It's love or fear. That's the choice, incidentally. God or the ego, light or dark. Yeah. That's the choice. The only choice. Everything else, all the myriad 8 billion alternatives, are a derivative of this one choice. Simple, right? You're not a body. We choose love or fear in the present moment. And what we choose becomes our world, becomes our reality. So let us perceive no differences today. We're here. It's our function, following the thought system of A Course in Miracles, to forgive everyone in the world, our brothers, our sisters, ourselves. Don't omit yourself, please. Because I know that that can be a very hard one for people. So we forgive everything and everyone. This, incidentally, includes the ego. It includes the world. As we go along on the path, we're invited by the Course to generalize our forgiveness. Now, many people make forgiveness highly specific, and that's absolutely fine. In other words, they find themselves able to forgive a specific incident, such as my mother yelled at me on February 27th, 1989 at 4:14 p.m. I've held on to that since 1989, for example. But you may find something similar, and you're able to forgive her for that one instance. How about her in general, for everything she may have done? Yeah. How about all people, all throughout time, all of them? Generalize, forgive the world, forgive the ego. And don't forget yourself. This is our function. So forgiveness is perception. It is, in fact, and the Course is very, very clear about this, an illusion. It's the only illusion that leads us to the truth. The others lead away from it. That's the important difference. It's still perception. Perception means there's a subject and an object. There's an I and something else. There is a perceiver and the perceived. That's perception. Truth, reality, is all oneness. There is no perception, there's no perceiver nor perceived, yet here in the world, we're experiencing quite the opposite. So forgiveness is given to us as our function and as the way out. It leads to God. It leads to truth rather than away from it. And as you may have guessed or intuited or even experienced, which would be wonderful, we're not broken. And in truth, ultimately, there's nothing to forgive. So because it's an illusion does not mean that you shouldn't practice it. In fact, it is the way out. What's going on when you forgive is you recognize oneness. You perceive oneness. You perceive the truth. You perceive things as they are, and you're letting go of ego clinging and attachment. Why? Ego, the separate sense of self, doesn't want you to forgive, does it? Ultimately, it wants you to keep those grudges that you've held since February 27th, 1989, for example. Some of them even longer than that, right? So, yeah, I invite in your practice of forgiveness, I invite you to start where you are. There's a lot of wisdom in that on the spiritual path. Start with what you're capable of doing. Start for forgiving yourself for spilling coffee on your white pants, for starters. Right? If that's all you can do to reach for a better feeling in the moment, great. That's great. Small steps are necessary on the path. And we get impatient in the world. So this is something that is worth hearing. It's worth watching, and it's worth a reminder. In fact, it's worth millions of reminders. We need to remind ourselves as many times as we can and must to do what we can in the present moment. If it's forgiving yourself for spilling coffee, great. It doesn't have to be forgiving your mother. In blanket forgiveness, generalized, all people, the world, historical dictators, the past, the future. I mean, big, big. You can and will eventually find yourself able to do just that, all of it. But if all you can do is think about a coffee spill, that is good. It's very good. In fact, it's beautiful. It's a miracle. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. One act of forgiveness is the same as any other. Okay? One act of forgiveness is the same as any other. So don't judge yourself, as I know you will. I know you will. Why? Because this is what we do. We say, oh, well, this is kind of small and I just can't do that. And well, when you recognize yourself doing that, forgive yourself. And it would be also deeply helpful to say, yeah, I don't want to feel this way, and reach for a better feeling in the present moment. The forgiveness will help. Prayer will help. Reciting the day's idea from the workbook will help. There are many ways that you can help and power assist yourself on this path. So I invite you to find those that work for you. And if you're following along here in the workbook, I invite you to really take this to heart and perceive no differences today, because there are not any differences. And well, so much for a very, very short video, right? There's always something to add by way of reminders. And again, I would just say that each spiritual teacher that you'll ever see, every single one of us, is repetitive. In modern instant messaging language, we would say we're all repetitive AF, right? And as adult learners that have habitual tendencies that are painful, that cause us pain, that cause us suffering, we need reminders, don't we? So I hope that this may serve as a powerful reminder to you of the truth of who you are and what your real name is, what you are, where you are. You know the answer. I know you know. This is not a challenge to you, by the way. There's no separate you. There's no separate me. You know. So are you willing to accept that?